Hello, it's Greg and Gadget. We're back. We hope you're having a happy day wherever you're listening to this audio content from. As always, we'd like to thank you for your continued support of Greg and Gaijin social media and writing efforts. Thank you. This is episode 040 of the Greg and Gaijin, definitely not a podcast show. A light and fluffy look at social media, Japan, Japanese food, expat life, and life in general. As always, your retweets of this and all the wonderful content that we actively tweet and retweet out on Craig Hoffman 11 on Twitter is appreciated. Thank you in advance for helping us get the good word out about Greg, Grizzled, and Gaijin. Welcome back. Another good show today, I hope. Talking about when your best is not enough and why you probably have to find a way to do and be more in your life than you probably are right now. This topic takes on a variety of forms in my life, both professional and personal, as well as some of my valued Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin engagers. I have some time. It's a national holiday as I record this first day of spring in Japan 2019. And those I love and care about are out doing it, or rather doing things that they love to do. And so I have a moment. I do these shows not for ratings or for PR, but as hopefully a community service to the expat community who kindly follows Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin, and to the larger non-expat community who continues to engage Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin on Craig Hoffman 11 on Twitter and the Grey, Grizzled, and Gaijin blog, Craig in Japan. And thank you for that. The first part of this, you have to be more in social media. I saw a tweet the other day and kind of lovingly, I hope, mocked me for tweeting almost hourly on Craig Hoffman 11. And I'm a heavy tweeter. I've written and talked about that. There's really no downside to tweeting on Twitter. Personally, I believe that social media is a 24/7 operation. We live in a world with a 24/7 news cycle. Why should I be any different than networks that make billions and billions of dollars and get huge revenue for advertising as well as make a lot of money? The reality is I'm not famous. I've carved out a niche of popularity among expat content creators here in Japan, and probably to some degree people who like Japan, Japanese food, and those who are active in the writing and blogging community who are looking for hints, tips, and tricks to improve their social media. I have a high level of social media acumen, and I choose, rather than charge for that, to share with the populace and those who have dreams much like mine. But I do tweet a lot, and if that's not for people, and I've written and talked about that before, they can unfollow me or they can mute my tweets. I do give a fair amount of warning before I go on a tweet storm, usually in the morning after I wake up, and in the evening after I return from a long day in whatever salt mines or food mines that I have picked for the day. I find that an excellent opportunity to put my content in front of commuters both east and west who are going and or coming from their jobs. I figure if I'm free, they are free. Of course, if you're a content creator like me, you see a lot of my tweets often. I see many people again and again and again. And personally, that doesn't bother me. I get tagged and notifications a lot on Twitter, and I try to respond to the vast majority of them and retweet and really engage my core content creator community. First, I think it helps build my brand and influence on Twitter. As well, I think it also is just a very kind and nice thing to do. But I'm sure it annoys people, and if you're one of those people that I annoy with heavy tweeting, I guess sorry if that makes it better. But the reality is that you have to be more on Twitter than just tweeting infrequently. If you're tweeting infrequently or not producing content, you're really invisible. Even famous people, they pay big money for social media management. There's a reason. It takes time and effort. Time and effort that most people, certainly famous people, don't have time to put into things. But for average content creators and even above average content creators who still have to have real jobs and have real lives. I was talking to a relatively new Gray Grizzled engager this week who wanted advice on writing books and blogging and building a following. They, like me, work a heck of a lot and have people to support, as many of you do who are listening to this, not a podcast as well. But I said I don't make excuses because I don't have time. I make time for my dreams, for my writing, my blogging, and my social media engagement. And there's a lot more that you can cut out of your life than you think you should be able to. I can't cut my job. That brings home the sushi, as it were. I can't cut my commitments to those whom I am responsible for. I would never do that. I would quit Twitter, writing, blogging, and all of this tomorrow if I ever thought for 1 millisecond that it got in the way of those relationships. I value people above success each and every time. But thankfully, I'm fortunate to be able to cut things like watching TV. I cut down my social time. I cut down my wasted time and energy. And yes, I cut down on my sleep to a fair degree to make these things happen. That's not special. That's the doing and being more that I've often written and talked about on my blog and on Twitter to reach those elusive dreams in life. And I told that content creator, if everyone could be a writer, if it was that easy, everyone would be a writer and stay at home and not have a daytime 8 to 5 job or whatever shift one works. It takes time and effort, a lot of thought and preparation, a lot of research and a lot of studying, a lot of experience, a lot of trial and error, and yes, a fair amount of complete and utter failure, and you still might not reach those dreams of grandeur, fame, and fortune. I was reading and shifting gears slightly, a blog from a pretty popular YouTuber. She's an expat living in Japan, lived in several countries, highly educated. I've seen a few of her videos. She's quite funny, quite talented, really tells it like it is. And she lamented various challenges and problems that she has faced. Long story short, she's hit a wall living here in Japan after, I think, 3 years, maybe 4 years, especially now that she lives in a big city. Some of that I can relate. I'll be here 14 years next week. I don't live in a big city, but the pressure, invisible that it is 90% of the time of living in a foreign country after this many years, does weigh on a body. I try to be positive about my expat experience, but I was talking to another pretty popular blogger, and I said, people get Gray, Grizzled, and Gaijin on social media. That's the peppy, positive, food-loving social media savant. And the people that take a time and make effort behind the scenes get, quote, Craig, end quote. And he's a realistic and pragmatic person. And I think that's important. My social media persona, my writing persona of Gray, Grizzled, and Gaijin isn't perfect, but it's a shield against the naysayers, the trolls, the critics, and the people, both virtual and in real life, who would seek to kind of bring me down, especially as I continue to grow and achieve some modicum of writing, blogging, and social media success. And sadly, those people are out there, and that's the way it is. But I was telling that content creator, they worried about, putting themselves out there and taking criticism and such things. And I said, you got to be authentic. I don't tell every detail of my existence in life. I share slices of my time in Japan, slices of my thoughts and feelings in my writing, and I think that's enough. And again, I put a very big distinction between Gray, Grizzled, and Gaijin, the caricature of Craig, and Craig as a real person. Of course, I'm a human being, and I'm sure deep down on some level, I have feelings, as much as I like to keep them deep inside. And so if I was a roller coaster of emotion and up and down reaction to life as an expat in Japan, while it might be, quote, more honest and raw, end quote, and there are content creators who do that, I don't think it would nearly bring in as many people as I have and keep them around for that sort of positive, motivational kind of feeling about, yes, I can do it too. If Gray, Grizzled, and Gaijin can do it, me too. Maybe. And I think that's an important part of my social media mission. And a slight pivot, I was also reading another article from a disgruntled expat who was angry and upset about nobody sitting next to them on the train. And there are varieties of that. I've seen a lot of expats lament nobody sitting next to them, basically being shunned in public from certain segments of the Japanese population. I do use public transportation, and again, I've been here almost 14 years. I've never seen anybody intentionally not sit next to me, but generally I stand on the train. I don't like people sitting next to me. I think it's a good way to get sick and spread germs. I'm in a high contact position with children, and I carry, I'm sure, any number of diseases back and forth. And I'm also exposed to a lot of potential to get really sick, and I don't like being sick. So I can't limit my exposure at my company, but I can limit my exposure on public transportation. So things like wearing a mask, for example, which annoyed somebody in another expat post I read, and as well as keeping space between me and other people, I do. And that's just the way it is. For me, that's a nice way that I've been able to stay healthier than most expats I know in my particular position. But again, you know, the part about being more and doing more in life is understanding that you are not the only one who struggles, and you are not the only one who feels inadequate and not up to the task of being successful in life. I get emails all the time from people. Can I be a writer? Can I be a blogger? Can I get big numbers on Twitter? Can you help me? And, you know, I can offer a sympathetic ear, but the work is theirs to do, as is my social media. Of course, one can collaborate and work with other people in your general area. Unfortunately, some people are not so motivated to help you move the needle, and that's the way it goes. Another writer said, nobody responded to his request for a beta reader. And I said, well, how many beta readers did you send your stuff to? And the writer said 5. And I kind of chuckled a little as I responded. I sent my books to almost 400 people. And I got about 10 people to read them and about 3 people to make substantive comments that I felt were of use to me as a writer. And the writer kind of paused and realized that it was a numbers game. And that, again, as I started in the opening of this, I tweet a lot, not because I want those content creators in my circle to read my stuff again, but I know that with 16,000 people and getting 50 likes and maybe 20 to 30 retweets, most of my audience has either not seen that tweet, not engaged that tweet, or completely dismissed me. And it's a good measure of the influence that one has on Twitter. You can look at people with hundreds of thousands of followers who tweet infrequently and realizing that they get 1, 2, 3, or 4 likes from like 100,000 Twitter followers. And you can see some people with 3,000 followers who follow maybe 100 when they post, however infrequently, they get hundreds, if not 1,000 likes and multiple tens of retweets. It's not really numbers, it's about influence. And I've talked before about being like a concession stand. My blog, I'm an active blogger. I have almost 600 posts. That's a lot of material that I can put. I have tons of pictures. My life is an interesting one. I'm a very intelligent and well-spoken person, as you might have guessed. I am highly educated, and that also helps. I have a variety of talents outside of writing. I'm very good at almost everything I do in life. That's the way it goes. It's not a humble brag, it's just reality. So I have a lot of different talents and angles and ways to come at my following on Twitter. And I think if you're one-dimensional on Twitter, it's very, very difficult to extend your reach in social media. If you post nothing but Japanese food, certainly you build a Japanese food following of foodie fans, and if that's enough for you, that's great, but there's a limit. But, for example, if you really enjoy Japanese food and you add travel to that, certainly now you've thrown a wider net to people. But when you throw out that net, no matter how big it is, and you're not catching fish, you have to either throw a bigger net, which you can't because you're limited by followers and algorithms that make Twitter difficult, or you can continue to throw that net again and again and again and again and be content to catch not boatfuls of new followers, but 1 or 2 or 3 or 10. And of those 10, maybe 1 or 2 become active followers. That's my strategy. And people, of course, will mock me for being the heavy tweeter, for being active in the blogging world, for being an active engager of people on social media. But the reality is, when I throw a big net to almost 16,000 people, I'm not catching 16,000 people, I'm catching somewhere in the hundreds. And of those hundreds, I'm getting 10 to 20 who's very interested in what I do. And of those 10 to 20 who show a high level of interest, and I thank them for that, I'm getting 4 to 5 people that take the time to build real relationships with me. Now, the opposite side of all that gloom and doom is that if you do that consistently, and I've talked about that 365 days a year, and you are a 24/7 presence on Twitter, you do get a boat full of really, really ginky fish. And if you see me tweet, if you see me engage people, you're seeing real relationships at work. I'm not a rock star, but I'm popular enough to continue to slowly push the needle of PR and promotional and marketing success in my favor. It's the same thing I do in my daily life. I've talked about it often. I came to Japan almost 14 years ago with nothing. A couple of suitcases and $1,000. And I didn't overnight make big money. I had a job, a place to live, sustainable income. But it was me daily getting up and going to my workplace and putting a full effort into my community and those around me that slowly made me a respected member of my community. And that went away when that job ended and I moved and my life took a turn into the married life and all that comes with that. And it was again a daily process of being more and doing more than those around me, both foreign and Japanese, to make my life something that other people could respect and some even aspire to be. And in the social media, it's been my mission for 2.5, coming up on 3 years of blogging and being back in the public eye on Twitter, that daily effort, people I hope see that I am there every single day, putting in the time and the work and the effort and a fair level of sincerity along with honesty into really building my following, working in the community to help people reach their dreams, and continuing to push, however slowly, towards reaching my ultimate goals. But of course, none of that blogging and social media and community means anything without being more and doing more for yourself. And in this last year, I've focused on being able to look in the mirror and say, Craig, what are you doing for you? And I had realized that in my pursuit of excellence in my life and in my dogged attempt to be more on social media, in blogging and writing, I had lost sight of being more and doing more for Craig. And at first it seemed like such a selfish thought. But I've realized that understanding that I have limits and there is only so much that I can do for other people, and there's only so fast that I can grow on social media. There's only so much time in a week to write blog posts. There's only X amount of hours to continue to write my books, that I'm probably not going to be able to accomplish everything today. But I'm okay because I've learned that I maximize the effort and time and talents that I have within me and that are presented to me, in the hopes that that time and effort and talent one day meets an opportunity that allows me to reach my dreams. So if you are a person discouraged about where you are in life, either physically or even metaphorically, stop and realize that wherever you are in life, whether you like it or you don't like it, at least be able inside yourself to understand where you are as a person, and understand that while destinations are great, as they say, there's great, great, great value in the journey. That's it, and have a great, great day.